Hello and welcome to Off the Fence, Cheltenham's daily show, brought to you in association with BoyleSports. We are recording this off the back of day one, which was absolutely sensational on so many different levels. We're going to be getting stuck in to looking back at today's action, but of course looking ahead to tomorrow as well, and hopefully pointing in the direction of a few more winners. But for now, let's say hello to the boys, Barry, Geraghty and Tony Keenan. We will kick off with you, Barry, because what a day, hey?
I know, it was magic. I was a very, very nervous spectator. I was chatting with you about half an hour before and I was fine. I'd say 15 minutes before the off, I was looking around. I was just getting this strange sensation was coming over me of worry. So yeah, it was, all of a sudden it just landed on me. And then to be in the stands, the crowd, the roar, but just obviously if you were a neutral, you'd watch it and you'd say it was an easy watch. But as someone who's invested in the horse, if you like, it was, you're expecting the worst everywhere, but it was foot perfect until his little flash at the last, which is very similar to what he did in the fighting fifth, and he went down and he just threw this playful leap as much to say, oh sure, I can. And it was funny, in Kempton, being a sharper track, Nico would probably have to set him alight, and for that reason he concentrated harder at the last, where today was like Newcastle, he floats down and he just goes, yippee, here we go. But it was brilliant. It was magic stuff, and the reception he got was just it was through the roof. So no, it was a brilliant day and a brilliant success.
It was pretty magical, and for everyone on track, I was working 5 Live, and we wanted Constitution Hill to win, but we needed him to win in sparkling fashion, and for him to do it the way he did, like you say, it was so special to be there. Just in terms of that jump at the last, it was your heart in your mouth as much as other people's hearts seemed to be.
It was, but I stood up in the stand along with Michael Buckley and Nicky Henderson in Nicky's lucky spot, which has a lamppost blocking the big screen. So I only had a partial view at it, so it was nearly over, and he was running away from the back before I realised what happened. But it added to the level of anxiety that it's funny that you wouldn't have when you're stuck in the middle of it.
And tell me this then, the feeling afterwards. So he's crossed the line. Constitution Hill's won the champion hurdle of 2023. Is it elation? Is it relief? Is it awe? What is the feeling in that moment when you're with that team?
I'll be honest, it was everything. I had a tear in my eye. I was trembling. It was surreal. Nicky was applauded coming off the stands, which was just beautiful to see that recognition of him. Someone who's achieved so much in his career. It was just magic, but it was a bit of everything. But I'd have to say I was too wound up to say that it was blissful joy, because it was probably only an hour later when I actually had settled and relaxed that you could take it in, and you could really take on what he had actually done, and it was unbelievable.
Oh, brilliant. I love it. I love being there. Tony Keenan, you were not on track with us, but try follow that up for a reaction piece.
I couldn't hope to match what Barry's after saying and his involvement in it. Look, we're all in the maelstrom of the week now. Tuesday often is a terrific day, but especially so today. It just has to go down as one of the great national hunt racing days with all that went on, and just going to get carried along hopefully now for the next 3 days. If the next 3 days can live up to what went today, we're in for a hell of a week.
I just don't know if it can, Tony. Like, everything went so well today. The weather, the race results, of course, with Honeysuckle, we will get to in a minute. Just everything was so perfect to feel like we started on such a high. But anyway, we won't predict the future. In terms of Constitution Hill's performance, Tony, and what you might expect of him going forwards, what would you like to add in terms of just looking at it from a sort of your position as a pundit?
I should look, an excellent performance, controlled the race really from the outset. Stateman would have looked the most meaningful rival he'd faced so far in his career, and just summarily dismissed them. It'd be great if he came to Punchestown after this, but by the talks of connections afterwards, they're talking about fences, which would be really good if he were to go that route next season.
Barry, last point on Constitution Hill. Do we know where we might see him next? What are you hoping for in terms of his next appearance? Where might be?
Well, the general vibe was Aintree, but I'd say Punchestown wouldn't be ruled out. But I'd be surprised if he did both. But Michael Buckley has an interest in jumping the fence with him, which you know, he's obviously run the point-to-point school over fences. He jumps a hurdle like as if he will jump a fence well. So it's definitely an option. I'm sure that'll get a lot of consideration.
Okay, incredible performance. We will just applaud it for the time being. Tony, let's come back to you for the mare's hurdle, because of course we were just coming down from the Constitution Hill High, and then Honeysuckle goes and does what she did in the mare's hurdle. I know you weren't expecting that performance from her yourself, but surely when you're watching at home on the TV, you can sit back and appreciate that moment.
Absolutely not. Look, you have to cheer her from the last home. So all you just want to do is for the mare to get up, having lost her unbeaten run there earlier in the season, and for obviously everyone connected with her. Absolutely brilliant to see. I'm just recalling this morning of a moment I was chatting to my wife, who would have at best a passing interest in racing. She says, "Is Honeysuckle going today?" I says, "She is. Will you back her?" I says, "You'd be as well giving it to charity, I think, to be honest." I was thinking briefly after she passed the line, this is going to be a good chat now. My wife comes in the door, Honeysuckle has won again. She's right again. But look, I thought Rachel Blackmore, lovely ride, just tracking what was a steady pace herself, and Love Envoy up there all the way, and very good training performance out of Henry de Bromhead. She looked to be on the way down. Maybe she's not what she was a couple of seasons ago, but absolutely brilliant way to bow out fairy tale stuff, which usually doesn't happen in any sporting event, really. It can be a cold and ruthless place.
Barry, she was your selection in the race, so well done with that. But being there afterwards, you were probably still on the Constitution Hill High. But again, surely you appreciated that moment. It was pretty special when she came back into the winners' enclosure. Oh,
absolutely. And the crowd really appreciated everything, you know, and Henry and Heather and the family and what they've been through. So that was a magic moment as well. It matched what happened with Constitution Hill, and in an emotional way it was probably even greater. But Tony mentioned Rachel gave her a brilliant ride. The step up and trip was a help. I thought Johnny Burke was brilliant on the runner up and was unlucky to meet a classy man like that. But on the same token, we spoke about Constitution Hill, I thought Nico, where he sat through the race by putting Not So Sleepy in the pocket behind the leader, kept things very simple. You know, you eliminate as much risk as possible in those moments. So 3 beautiful pieces of riding, if you like.
Love it. Okay, Barry, we'll stick with you for a bit of Supreme reaction. Of course, Marine Nationale getting up above Facile Vega, and a pretty incredible moment for the jockey and the trainer, having been so bullish. I think we might have seen a very, very good horse.
I think so too. Ground looked very soft at that point of the day, and we might touch on this again later on. But the pace was steady, but the ground looked like proper winter soft ground. Marine Nationale, we had all of the concern about that, about him performing on the ground, but he travelled brilliantly. He crept. Michael O'Sullivan was unbelievably good on him. He sat, he waited, he saved, just like he did in the Royal Bond, jumped the last and then went and go. You could argue if Paul Townend was to do it again, he might set a little bit longer, but give credit to the winner. He picked up really well, and it was a really good performance. So no, brilliant piece of riding, but also for Barry O'Connell, who obviously put him up on the get-in show with Jason and Alex last week, and he was very confident and bullish about him. And usually you pay the price when you are that way, but it was a brilliant performance, and hats off to him.
Absolutely. And Tony, last piece of reflection for this show anyway, because we're just rattling through, and obviously we've got our preview to come. But El Fabiolo winning the Arkle, his jumping still isn't the finished article, but you were right in terms of him having the bigger engine, the sort of classier act in this field over John Bon.
Yeah, I think he just proved himself a superior horse to John Bon. I thought his jumping was much his best jumping performance of the season on his third start. Paul Townend was very patient on him, took a lead for as long as possible there, coming at the second last, and he's just won well. I do think he's a horse that maybe up and trip might suit in time. He's a very powerful kind of horse. Though I'm sure they will stick to 2 miles for him, as long as he remains unbeaten, which would be the usual way with the Mullins 2 mile chasers.
Okay, on we go now, guys. We've got a preview day 2. We're just coming down from the high that is day 1, but we have to kick on to day 2. Kicking off, of course, Barry, with the Ballymore, and could it be a repeat of the Supreme today with Impaire Et Passe at the top of the market 7-4, but good land for the Connell O'Sullivan axis at 11-2, Hermes Allen then 9-2, but strong vibes about the market leader. But once again, Barry O'Connell could spoil the party. Do you expect him to?
Well, it's a very competitive race, and this horse they've talked him up, and they even prefer him to the winner today. So, you know, he has been very impressive in what he's done to date, but it is a really good race. Likewise, Impaire Et Passe, not overly tested, if you like, but really impressive. Hermes Allen, you could say the same in the Challow Hurdle too, but you know, he has possible question marks. Gaelic Warrior, top rated, really impressive last time over 2 miles at Leopardstown. Goodland, as we mentioned. I actually give a sneaky little chance. I'm giving a bit of forgiveness here for American Mike at a fancy price. I think he's overpriced at 40 to 1 considering what he did last season. He's going to be better up on trip, with more pace. But as regards the race itself, I've been sticking with Gaelic Warrior all through the season, or since Christmas anyway. I'm going to stick with him, but I do think there's very, very little between the top 4. The other thing of note is, and I mentioned it earlier on in the Supreme, how slow the ground looked. If you compare that ground visually to the Mayor's Hurdle, there is nowhere dries like Cheltenham. There's a bit of rain forecast tonight, but it's generally dry through the day until the second half of the afternoon. I think about 3 or 4 o'clock there's rain coming in. So don't be surprised if the ground is going to be good to soft and will improve through the day before the rain comes in. So as I say, nowhere dries like Cheltenham.
Okay, good info, good info. And American Mike is currently 33s with BoyleSports, but his main fancy Gaelic Warrior is 13 to 2. Over to you, Tony, for the Ballymore. Where does your final pin land in this race?
I think the same place it's been for about 2 months at this stage. Good land. I would agree with Barry that it is a tightly knit race. The Impaire Et Passe, obviously the vibes and the comments out of the stable have been very positive. On the form book, though, at whatever he is, 6 to 4, 7 to 4, I could pass him over. The problem, of course, with Goodland now is his price is shortened dramatically on the back of Marine Nationale's win. By all accounts, they do work together. Barry Connell has mentioned that where Marine Nationale not around, Goodland would well be a supreme horse. But I'm hoping that Goodland's price will bounce out a little bit. There are plenty of Willie Mullins punters there. There are plenty of Paul Nichols punters there. Hermes Allen was very impressive last time. I think Goodland is the really solid horse in this race. As I mentioned before, just really impressive winner of Christmas. Showed a good turn of speed there, running away from horses that would look 130 types, and Search of Glory and Embassy Gardens. And then I'd say with things not going ideally for him in Nathaniel Lacey, sat a little bit close to the pace, raced a little bit keen, but was still had plenty left to repel them all. So I'd be very disappointed if he's not able to make the 3, and I would fancy him quite strongly. And just on this Michael O'Sullivan Gaelic, he's just given off massive Colin Keane vibes with Ger Lyons early on type of stuff, like the fact that someone's willing to take a risk on him, like not that no one had heard of him a year ago, but he was a relative unknown. But my God, has an amazing weekend, and to be quite honest, just a very good season overall. Like Barry Connell's strike rate just all season has been excellent, and there's no reason why he won't be able to keep it going in the first tomorrow. Okay,
brilliant confidence for Goodland and the Barry Connell team with Michael O'Sullivan in the saddle. On we go, Tony, to the Brown Advisory. Gerri Colombe at the top of the market, still 13 to 8. Sir Gerhard 4 to 1. The real whack of 6s. Gallia de la Toe 13 to 2. Time Hill 9 to 1. Thunderrock 16s with BoyleSports. Bigger prices thereafter. Yeah, we'll stick with you, Tony, for this. With it drying, as Barry said, how much are we worried about that in regards to Gerri Colombe?
Yeah, it would be a little worry. Gordon Elliott has said he's not that concerned about it, although earlier in his career he was a horse that I think that got jarred up in his novice hurdle campaign. He definitely mentioned him, keeping him away from decent ground. This whole set of horses, they're not a group of horses I've had a great feel for all year. I don't think I've had too many strong bets in any of these races. So Gerhard, I've had a small bet on him playing the man, more so necessarily than the horse, or at least the horse over fences thus far. The fact that he was preferred to Gaillard de Mani, who did win today, is a pointer to him. Obviously, he's an excellent Cheltenham horse. He's 2 from 2 at the meeting. I think, to be fair to Sir Gerhard, any other than Punchestown in April, he tends to win. His jumping or lack of experience won't be a concern, but I just think maybe in a race that maybe isn't as classy as it can often be, he might be worth a small chance to get away with it, though it definitely wouldn't be a strong field for him.
Okay, not a strong vote, but just a tentative one in the Brown advisory for Tony. Barry, over to the novice chase over the 3 miles.
Yeah, I'd be happy to give him a stronger vote. No, I respect all the things Tony said, but I would agree with him as being the classy horse in the race. But he is a horse who probably has limited scope. He took a chance in Gore, and when he was racing over hurdles, he didn't jump a hurdle like a fellow who was going to be really impressive over a fence. So I wasn't surprised to see him jump the way he did, but he took that one chance in Gore. But after that, he developed a very measured technique. And it's a survival mechanism, if you like, if you have a horse who just isn't as scopy as some. You know, where horses have an option. We saw with Gallop in the Champ last year in Edwardstone, and he's taken chances because he has option. His options were Sir Gerhard is neat and nimble. He was very neat and nimble down the straight and Gore, and so I think the step up and trip's going to be ideal for him. If the ground dries, that suits fine as well. He's a very classy horse. I think I'd be sweet on him.
Okay, interesting. A more positive vote for Sir Gerhard at 4-1 with thoughts. And viewers out there, who do you fancy in the Brown advisory or the Ballymore to kick proceedings off? Please do get in contact. We'd like to hear from you in the comments below. Get involved. On we go to the Coral Cup, Barry. We'll stick with you. Very competitive. Run for Oscar, 8-1 market leader with BoyleSports. HMS Seahorse, 9-1. Campron, 9-1. And thereafter, but the fact that the favourite, as you would expect in a race like this, is around the 8-1 mark speaks volumes for how competitive it is. Who have you gone with in the end?
Yeah, there's obviously with the ground being on the slower side, I know it's going to dry tomorrow, but when I look back and reflect on what Phil Dore did in Goran, I know it was in very soft ground, but he's only raced over 2 miles. It was his first run back over hurdles, haven't been running over fences. He's a top weight, but it does suit a classy horse. Ben Harvey rides him. He's a good £5 claimer. I think Phil Dore could be a little bit of each way value. It was a good performance, but this will be his first time stepping beyond that 2 mile trip. He's probably raced over 2-1, but he's going to 2-5. I think that's going to really suit him. And I think HMS Seahorse, who won in Navan on his first run back after being gelded, I'd say that there's potential for more improvement in him.
Yeah, for obvious reasons, now that he's had that gelding operation, Tony.
I think this is absolutely brilliant. Renewal of the Coral Cup, really competitive, loads of interesting English horse, the likes of Lang or Dan, and good risk at all if the ground got soft. But I have 2 Irish horses in mind. Well, 1.5. I think the very man is a big price here at 40-50 to 1. Lot of talk about Irish horses going up in the weights when they go to Britain. It is what it is, but he's a horse that actually is lower in the weights than when he appeared at Cheltenham last year. He was 144 in the market hype last year, and now he's down to 139 with a jockey taking off £7. I think he's well handicapped with 139. He's definitely well handicapped taking the 7 off. The jockey's inexperience is a worry, but I actually think you can make a fairly decent case that he's a better horse than he was this time last year. He travelled through a competitive Punchestown 3 mile handicap last April. Like the best horse just didn't last out. Improved from the flat then into late summer and autumn. Finished up, I think, rated in the high 80s. Little bit of a break. Ran quite well at the Dublin Racing Festival. Again, 3 miles stretching him, and then he won a charity race at Punchestown there a few weeks ago quite nicely. Giving a bit of weight to Scaramanga, who's also in the race. So I think. He's just a massive price, and I'm going to be betting each way. And the other one I was interested in was San Salvador, who I think has improved this season. Now, himself and Captain Conby are both quite prominent in the market here, and Captain Conby is a bit better off at the weights. But I do think San Salvador, when he won a Punchestown the last day, he caught GGS 11 a little bit by surprise with how easily he settled it between 2 out and 1 out. I think held on to it a little bit longer here. He might have a little bit more in him, and he'd be my second choice, but very much the very man. I'm keen on him. I think he's a bit of a wild price.
Okay, a wild price. Love that. Big price horse, and San Salvador is not short priced either. But as we've touched upon, Coral Cup, so competitive. Tony, let's stick with you and move on to the champion chase. We get to see Energumene take on Edwardstone, retake on Editor's Ajit. Energumene 13-8, Edwardstone 13-8, Editor's Ajit 5-1, Nube Negra 20s, Geraghty 25, Swillen Bull Sabola 33s, Captain Guinness 40-1. That is your Queen Mother champion chase field of 2023. And we know we've spoken about this plenty. Tony, I'm pretty sure you're still with me with Edwardstone, but you also think Editor G, well, you mentioned that you thought he was sort of value at his price. Is that the angle in with him?
Yeah, I actually haven't had a bet in this race. I'm going to have something on Edwardstone, although Willie Mullins did a really good job getting Facile Vega back today. I must say, yeah, the horse settled well. Maybe he could have been lent too close or with a bit more restraint, but it was a much better performance in the obviously the Dublin Racing Festival, and maybe he's going to be able to get an Energumene back, who wasn't anywhere near as dismal as Facile Vega in the previous run. But I just think with Edwardstone, he has the single best piece of form this season. The Sandown run, beating Geraghty, who seems to be a 170 horse every time he turns up to Sandown. He just beat him so well, and his run back here in January should leave him spot on for this. So it would be Edwardstone. It wouldn't be a massively strong opinion, but I will be definitely having something on him.
Yeah, I'm team Edwardstone as well. But Barry, we know your team Energumene. The drying ground, you mentioned already about Cheltenham drying so quickly. Would that be a concern for him?
I wouldn't say it would be a concern. He's always got great form on soft ground. But I just think he's got that edge and pace. And I would agree with what Tony said as regards the comparison with Facile Vega, the improvement on him from Leopardstown. I think you will see a big improvement in Energumene from what he did in the Clarence House. As regards the opposition, I would have full respect for Edwardstone. I just don't see Editor the Geek just getting the run of the race that he did get in the Clarence House on the old course versus the new course. So no, I'd be happy to stick with Energumene.
Okay, 2 versus 1. Barry, let's stick with you for the cross-country chase. Delta Work taking on Galvin, obviously from the same yard. Delta Work 6-5, Galvin 9-4. Franco Deport is the next best at 8-1. So it really is about the Gordon front 2 in the market. A lot of being discussed in regards to the ground with these horses. One wants it soft, one wants it a bit better ground. If the rain comes, is this one of these races that people should be waiting to see if the rain does come?
Yeah, and from the forecast I looked at, for what it's worth, isn't due until later in the afternoon. So there may be no rain before this. But even if rain comes 15 or 20 minutes beforehand, it won't make that big of an effect at that time. So I'll be coming back around towards, I was fancying Galvin through the last few weeks, and then I flip-flopped and went and Delta Work when I was looking to be soft. But with the improvement in the ground, I'm coming back around to Galvin again. So you may just have to watch and see how the ground is. If they call it good to soft at the start of the day, and if it's dry, reasonably dry up to the cross country, it's going to keep improving. So I'd be leaning towards Galvin at the minute.
Did you enjoy the cross country chase in your riding days, Barry?
I used to ride it years ago, but back then there was bollards that if you went the wrong side of them, you were going to get 10 days. So it was good fun to ride around. The banks weren't as difficult as the Punchstown banks; they were a bit easier. But just the fear of getting 10 days for going the wrong side of a hedge kind of turned me off it.
Fair. I can understand that. Over to you, Tony, for the cross-country chase. I don't think you have a strong view in this, do you?
No, I think there must be a punting equivalent to going the wrong side of those bollards. I think that'd be me in the cross-country chase, so I'll just go to the Grand Annual maybe.
Okay, let's do exactly that. On we go to the Grand Annual. Very competitive as always. Fine Lauders 5-1, Dino Blue 5-1, Andy Dufresne 6-1, Third Time Lucky 10s, Course of Blind 12s, That's Lad 12s. Those are the top few in the market for the Grand Annual. Have you gone on a deep dive into this? I hate this race, Tony. I actually just hate it. I'm never anywhere near the winner.
Oh, I don't know if I have any great record in this, although this season it is a real Irish race. There's a hell of a lot of Irish horses in it, and I'd say there's a few English connections are fairly sick. There's a couple of horses down there, Unexpected Party and St. Seagull would have been quite well fancied, that just missed the cut on the back of some of these Irish horses. I'd say they just weren't expecting as many declarations as they were. I thought the Irish ones at the front of the market now a lot of them were skinny enough, and when I went through it, I was coming down on 2 outsiders. The main one would be a horse, Peter Niven, I think, is a chap that trains his horse called Melistic. He has, to me, benefited from quite a bit of lenient handicap, and he's won 2 Class 2 races on his start before last and the start before that, and he's only gone up 7 pounds. He would have looked quite a soft ground horse throughout his career, but the race he won on his penultimate start at Doncaster was on quite decent ground. St. Seagull was second in that. I think he'd have a great chance in this race, the Williams horse, but he's missed the cut. But Melistic travelled really well through that race and probably hit the front plenty soon enough. And I think that form is strong. the second in that, or the third in that, was Gold de Bois, who had won the race, I think, the previous season, and was obviously well suited by conditions. Well, the fourth is a solid horse before midnight, and he's only gone up, as I say, I think it was £3 for that, or £4 for that, and then 7 altogether with the previous win. And then he's ran in that good race in Newbury, the Game Spirit, and like, time for me given the going as firm that day. And look, I'd say he just hated the ground. He didn't jump at anything like the fluency, but he had it down Kister. So I think he's definitely worth a stab at. I think he's about 33 to 1. He's a very interesting runner. And the other one now, it would be a riskier kind of pick, because he has shown absolutely nothing since entry last season. But I do think his season has been geared around either this race or the Red Rum coming up, and that's Dancing on My Own, Henry de Bromhead's horse. I just think he can't go right-handed at all. I think he's a complete and utter left-handed horse. He's running 2 races at Fairyhouse over the winter there, and he's just shifting left the whole time. Now, he possibly isn't the most fluid jumper at the best of times, but he is well handicapped on that entry form. He was off 1-4-1 on that occasion. He's 1-4-4 now. He ran into a horse there at the last day who is a bit of a track specialist at the entry, to 15 lengths clear of the third, who won next time. Obviously, the owners would be aiming at a race like this, the sponsor of the first race on the card. You know, his jump, he can clout of one, but again, he's basically the outsider of the field, and I think he's definitely worth a small few bob each way.
Wow, 2 big price swings in the Grand Annual for Tony. I really wasn't expecting that. Bravo. That's why we pay you the big bucks, Tony. Over to you, Barry. I'm not sure you can match that, but you've already delivered with your Constitution Hill reaction. So we'll let you off if you don't have a strong enough case like Tony in the Grand Annual.
Yeah, I just thought in comparison to the Ultimate today, it lacks depth, and I would have felt you're clutching at straws with a lot of them, and some of the Tony mentioned, you're building cases around them, and definitely would respect those, and Tony's obviously a very good judge. But I was coming down on Andy Dufresne. He's going back in on a similar mark to when he was second in the race last year. To me, I'm sure he's been tuned for this. He ran well here last year, so I wouldn't have a strong opinion, but no, I'd be coming down on Andy Dufresne's side.
Okay, a tentative selection with Andy Dufresne. He's 6 to 1 with BoyleSports. Barry, let's wrap up with the champion bumper. A Dream to Share is now the favourite at joint favourite 4 to 1 with Factor File 4 to 1. It's for me 11 to 2. Fun 8. Better Days Ahead 12s. Chapeau de Soleil at 14. And Canto Bruno at 14s as well as Western Diego. I mean, it's interesting. Obviously, Paddy Mullins had to decide to ride 1. And I'm not surprised by his selection, actually, really. But A Dream to Share at the top of the market for me is the way I'm looking to go in this race for the John Kiley team.
Yeah, well, I was that way. And then I was swinging towards Factor File with the ground. Oh. He has form in soft ground. He is also a 6-year-old as well, which is a positive in a race like this, because he's more battle hardened and he's more able for the occasion, maybe. But by probably 3 o'clock, the ground could be getting closer to good than good to soft. But then there's rain due to come in, so I think this is one to watch and see how the day fares out. But for me, I think the market's right with those two. But now you're talking the bumper with limited form and limited knowledge of who's up and who's down. But to me, what we know to date, I would be on Factor File and slower ground, and A Dream to Share if it's better.
Okay, Factor File for the Mullins juggernaut that is in this, Tony, but you're not abandoning me with A Dream to Share, are you? Please instill some confidence.
No, I'd agree with Barry's take on that. I'd like to see what the ground is through the day now with him. Very good the last day, but if it did come up soft, quite a flat pedigree, it'd be a concern. I was surprised that Patrick Mullins picking this Factor File. He must be leaping forward now from run to run. He did take a nice bit of improvement from Christmas to the Dublin Racing Festival, so maybe he's improved again. My take on the bumper all season has been that it's a really deep division, it's really competitive, and because of that, I'm quite happy to chance something at a price. Willie Mullins is running 10 in this. To me, that's it. They just they don't know which is the pick of them, and I'm sure the jockeys have found it very hard to pick between them and put a pecking order on them. And the one that I came down of his, I put it up in the column this morning, was a horse called Loughlin. Now, he ran in the George Merna sales race at Fairyhouse last Easter. Willie Mullins actually think he had the first 3 in that, and Loughlin was 6th. I think he actually bought 4 or 5 horses at that sale. He got 4 of them through the race in the fairness. So that was some training performance. But I do think, reading Patrick Mullen's comments after he won subsequently at Naas that it was a little bit of a rush for Loughlin. And when he came back off that a break in Naas, he beat a horse called Firefox, who not only had a run on him, but has put up a really good performance at Navan since, in a very fast time, winning 10 lengths basically unchallenged. And I think if Firefox was in here, he'd be a single figure price for this. And Loughlin was conceding fitness to them. I thought Loughlin showed a really good attitude that day. There were two of them battled the whole way up the straight. I think they were 25, 26 lengths clear of the third. And you've got Michael O'Sullivan on board, which can't be a negative the way he's going at the moment. So I liked him at a price. Well, I'll definitely be taking stabs at one or two other ones in this. No Time to Wait is one I back small anti-post. I'm going to have another few quid on him. I thought he took a big jump first to second start to win it down. Ryle was impressive. The horse he beat there, Sogdanti, is quite a solid yardstick. But there's plenty of others there. I would give chances to Paul Nicholls' horse. As Captain Tiki is, he was visually quite impressive in winning. Just watching the replays on him, and I thought Western Diego too was one in this. But again, I think this is a real cracker of a champion bumper with Loughlin.
I know you're a form man, Tony, so I'm sure you're not interested in this, but I did go down to Paul Nichols's and I saw McTeague and said, the horse is cantering round, and eventually after about 3 rounds said, what on earth is the chest? That is just a real standout horse. And he was like, that is McTeague. And he said he's the sort of horse that could run into a place in the bumper, but this is by far from his be all and end all. So I think he thinks he's a very nice individual going forwards, but if he placed, they'd be delighted. That sort of vibe with him. But look, he's a bigger price and he's one for the future, as are they all, of course. On we go. We can move on to Robbie Powell. We've got a special guest now because BoyleSports ambassador, Gold Cup winning jockey Robbie Powell gives us his selections for day 2 of the Cheltenham Festival.
Hi everyone, it's Robbie Powell here, BoyleSports ambassador. My fancies for day 2 of the Cheltenham Festival. In the opening race, Impaire Et Passe. The word from Close Sutton is this: that is a really promising horse, and I think he'll take all the beating. The 3 Mile Novice Chase, Gerri Colombe, dual grade 1 winner over 2.5 miles, stepping up to 3 miles, which I think will bring around more improvement. And I think it'll be very hard to beat him, the 3 Mile Novice Chase. And then the Champion Chase, the feature on day 2, Energumene, Edwardstone. The more the ground dries, the more I'm starting to fancy Edwardstone. I think he can confirm form with Energumene from the January meeting.
Thanks very much to Robbie Power for that. We look forward to seeing how his selections run. Tony, we will come to you, I think, for your nap. Given the fact that you've just given us a few massive price swings in this this day, I don't know where you're going to go with your nap of the meeting of day 2. So take it away, please. What's your nap for Wednesday at Preston?
Yeah, look, like yesterday, I'm going to cheat on this. I have 3 horses that I fancy tomorrow. Good Land, The Very Man, and Loughlin, and I'd just be putting them into a small Trixie or something like that, along with backing them singly.
That is cheating a little bit, but you know what? We'll allow it, Tony. We'll allow it. Over to you, Barry. Your nap, please, for Wednesday.
I would go with Sir Gerhard.
Sir Gerhard, okay. All right, wasn't expecting that. And I will go with Good Land in the first, just because Tony's so confident, basically, that's bolstered my confidence now. So I'll go with Good Land, just latch onto those coattails. That was our wrap-up of day 1 and our preview of day 2 on Off the Fence. I hope you're enjoying the week. I hope you love Tuesday as much as we all love Tuesday. Good luck to you punting on Wednesday. Hopefully we'll have found you some winners. Enjoy the day, and we will be back with our day 2 preview and review later. But for now, thank you very much for watching. That was Off the Fence.